Good evening. My name is Robin Kenney, and I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of the board and staff of the New Hampshire Humanities Council to our 24th annual dinner. Tonight is all about stories and storytelling. Later tonight, we're going to hear from one of the most gifted authors and imaginative storytellers of our time. But all year long, we've been privileged to celebrate the power of the stories that have been made possible by the Humanities Council. Stories that spark our imagination, nourish our spirit, and cause us to think about who we are as individuals, as communities, and as a nation. This is the core of what the Humanities can do for us. It is my great honor to chair this organization, which includes some of the best minds and most dedicated people in our state. May I ask the Board of Directors of the Humanities Council to please stand and be recognized. They are Dan Nelson, Martha McLeod, Cleve Capalla, Sylvia Macbeth, Steve Barba, Mary Jo Bovair, Jane Christie, Joanne Dowdell, Patty Hicks, Lourdes Jimenez, Chris Lucas, Inez McDermott, Rusty Mosca, Bob Odell, Tracy Shear, Ellen Scarponi, Brian Tolles, David Waters, Dan Will, and Susan Wright. Now, once a board member's term is over, we are fortunate they usually stay around. Many of our former leaders are here tonight. May I ask our former directors and executive directors to stand and be recognized. Thank you for your time and for your inspiration. It's been part of the foundation on which we continue to do our work. Now, this past year, the Commission on the Humanities and Social Sciences met, and they were a very impressive group of business leaders, scholars, artists, and public servants, including our own Ken Burns, Supreme Court Justice David Souter. And they issued a report called The Heart of the Matter. The group posed the question, who will lead America into a bright future? And their report came to these conclusions. Our future will depend on citizens who care, who are educated, and who care in the broadest sense so that they can participate in their own governance and engage with the world. An adaptable and creative workforce. Experts in national security, equipped with a cultural understanding, knowledge of social dynamics, and language proficiency to lead our foreign service and military through complex global conflicts. Elected officials and a public who can exercise civil, political discourse founded on an appreciation of the ways our differences and commonalities have shaped our history. All these things the humanities train us to do. Now, as always, we are honored to have the chief executive of our state as guest. Though I believe she's attended past alumni annual dinners as a private citizen and member of the State Senate. It is my great pleasure to welcome Governor Maggie Hassan.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. Please be seated. Of course, what is going through my mind at the moment, having spoken here last week for the BIA dinner, is whether all of you would be hearing the same Red Sox story twice. Suffice it to say that I am the third in a line of 4 Margarets who care very, very much about the Red Sox, and I'm looking forward to tonight's game, as I'm sure all of you are. I thank you, Robin Kenney, for your work and your introduction. Thanks to Deborah Watrous as well, the Board of Directors and the New Hampshire Humanities Council staff for having me. A special thank you to my colleagues, Senator Watrous and Senator Odell, for your service on the board. I know that we have a number of state representatives here in attendance tonight, and I am very, very grateful to them for the work they all do. It's extraordinarily important work. It's also a particularly good example of citizen democracy at a time when our country desperately needs it. So thank you to all the state legislators who are here. To Commissioner McLeod and the Department of Cultural Resources, I also thank you for your work. To our guest speaker, Colum McCann, I am so grateful for your work. I confessed to Colum a little bit ago I haven't read his books, but I certainly am going to now that I have read about them and met him. And a special thank you to each and every one of you who is here tonight. You contribute to New Hampshire's cultural well-being through the work you do, through the interest you show, through the grassroots efforts that this council champions, and all of you do too by your presence here tonight. It is hard at a time when we have so many challenges and when some of our public discourse seems so fraught to overstate the importance of humanities in our lives. It is the way, in fact, we understand ourselves, and it is that self-awareness that is necessary for us to do difficult things together. So we're here tonight to celebrate the importance of the humanities in our efforts to live together in our community and civic lives. The work all of you do, the strong presence and culture of humanities in our state contributes greatly to New Hampshire's quality of life, to our education efforts, to our history, to our culture, to our travel and tourism. We have historic and cultural resources here, and our entertainment and the arts here that attract visitors from around the world, and it's incredibly important to our creative economy as well. I know that tonight's theme is one of storytelling, so I thought I would share a couple of stories that I began to reflect on as I thought about this gathering tonight. They are 2 stories that I haven't thought much about in a while. One of them is fictional and one of them is nonfiction. They were told to me by 2 people very important in my life. My first was my dad. Dad grew up in Jacksonville, Florida during the Great Depression. His family struggled during the Great Depression. My grandfather was a traveling shoe salesman in the Deep South, which meant he didn't make any money because no one bought shoes in the Deep South during the Depression. My grandmother was a 4th grade teacher, and she was paid with what were the equivalent of food stamps, and that's how the family survived. My dad also grew up in the segregated South, and having gone off to college on a scholarship, college that he then quickly said he hated, he enlisted in World War II. I actually think he enlisted because he thought he should. He always says it was because he was not doing well in school. But Dad fought next to African-American soldiers in World War II, and he came home having survived the Battle of the Bulge, determined to contribute in new ways to his country and understanding, I think, in a new way, the deep, deep evil of segregation. And so Dad had this story, and I won't tell it just the way he did, I can't. As he told it, his Southern accent, which wasn't very present by the time I was in his life, would emerge. But his fictional story was a story of the Blue Candy Man. The Blue Candy Man was a man who lived in a neighborhood of families, and he was made of blue candy. And because he looked different and sounded different, parents wouldn't let their children talk to him. They would bring them inside whenever he passed by. You get the picture. And the story concludes with the story of a family in the neighborhood whose house caught on fire in the middle of one night. And the only person in the neighborhood who could withstand the heat of that fire was, in fact, the Blue Candy Man. And he rescued the family. And when the family went to look for him to thank him, they found that he had melted away. Kind of a sad story to tell children, except that what it taught me was obviously not to judge people by their appearance, but that there were people out there willing to help in a crisis, and that you never knew who they were going to be. And also that being treated differently, being shunned because of your appearance, could in fact make you invisible. You could in fact melt away. That's story number one. Story number two was told to me by my grandfather, my mom's dad, other side of the family, a very different background. He grew up in a well-to-do family north of Boston, decided to go to medical school, much to his family's disapproval in 1920 or so, because it wasn't a good enough thing for their son to do. Doctors weren't held in the same esteem, I think, then. He went off one summer to the Grenfell Mission, sailing boats up and down the coast of Labrador to bring medical services to the population there. And he had two observations that he used to tell us a lot. One was that right after he helped deliver a baby, he was discharged by the senior medical student in the group to go tell the father of the baby that the baby had been born, and the father was at a local watering hole. And my grandfather learned that the father and the mother were not married. To a very proper Bostonian, this was deeply troubling. He was going to have to go tell a man that a woman claimed that her new baby was his, and he thought it was going to be a very unpleasant encounter. What he found instead was great joy, because in Labrador at that time, couples didn't get married until they knew they could have children, because their survival depended on it. From that wonderful story, I learned again, don't judge a book by its cover. Understand people from the context in which they are placed. Understand the importance of cultural context before you prejudge. Those stories stay with me today, as I think many stories we tell each other, fictional and nonfiction, do, and they reach us in ways that sheer discourse and debate cannot. The humanities played a huge part in my life, not only starting with the stories I heard, those and many others, but as a member of theater groups. I got to be Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream, Little Buttercup and HMS Pinafore. Thankfully, there's no video of either. I am reminded by works of fiction and nonfiction of the importance of storytelling to all of us, whether it's To Kill a Mockingbird, whether it's the works of Wally Lamb, whether it's the great stories that J.K. Rowling tells us with Harry Potter, whether it's Anna Quinlan's constant reminder of how resilient human beings can be in the midst of great tragedy. All of these works tell us, remind us of humanity's mixed essence. What other being is required to share and work with each other, share a planet, share communities, share lives, understanding and dealing with each other's great strengths and each other's great failings. This self-awareness that storytelling brings us, that the humanities brings us, is critical in the world that I operate most of the time in now, which is the world of self-government. Some people might call it politics. My dad was a political scientist. That's what he decided to do after returning from the war, studying societies and governments, and he often reminded me that while people may despair about the state of politics, it is the alternative to violent confrontation, to war. Our ability to be self-aware, our ability to understand that as we argue and debate, that we are in fact people of great strength as well as some flaws, is critical to who we are as a democracy. And at a time when I think so much of the country questions whether our founders' notion of a self-governing people can really work, I know that here in New Hampshire it does. And it really works because we do take the time to know each other, to care for each other, to listen to each other, to fight occasionally with each other, but to do that with the recognition of how human each and every one of us is and how great our possibilities are when we come together, acknowledging that very humanity. Ultimately, our test in politics and in life is not whether we always like each other or get along, but it's whether we can love each other in the sense of having mutual respect for each other as Americans, as Granite Staters, whether we can do that enough to find our way forward. Nights like tonight, the work that you all do on a daily basis, the work of our humanities community and our cultural leaders reminds us again and again that we can. So I am deeply, deeply grateful for the work you do. I wish you a wonderful evening together. I thank Colin McCann for being here. I thank all of you for supporting cultural institutions and innovative educational programs that bring people together. They strengthen our families, our community, our state, and they make it possible for us to be a wonderfully self-governing, diverse, and strong people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Governor Hassan. Thank you, Governor Hassan. It's an honor to have those thoughtful, substantive remarks and your support for the humanities in New Hampshire. Good evening. I'm Debbie Watrous. I'm the Executive Director of the New Hampshire Humanities Council, and I'm just thrilled to have you here tonight. And I just can't wait to hear Colin McCann speak. He's one of my absolute favorite authors. But it's also just a joy to be with you all, as it is every year, and to enjoy the conversations that we have with one another. Though we're here to celebrate annual dinner number 24, I have to admit that we're already thinking about next year. And that's because next October, our annual dinner will kick off a year-long celebration of our 40th anniversary. A dedicated group of friends, including many of the current and former directors who stood up earlier, will be working over the course of next year to prepare a celebration that showcases significant projects from our past and previews innovative new ventures that will launch us into our next 40 years of service to the state. So stay tuned for that. And let me just insert here, please go ahead and start your salads, because we do want to have an expeditious dinner service so we can enjoy our keynote talk and get home to see most of the game. But you have to keep listening, though, while you eat. Thank you. I've had the good fortune to work for this wonderful organization for 20 years, 10 of them as executive director. Hands down, this is the best job in the world. Practically every day, I have the pleasure of working with some of the brightest minds in the state, and I get to be part of some of the most fascinating conversations. A couple of weeks ago, I got to consider the complex issues of privacy, social media, and the law. And then I reveled the other night in an exchange between author Roland Marullo and 150 Mount Washington Valley residents who came out on a rainy night to talk about poverty, faith, nature versus nurture, and stonemasonry. Most of all, I count myself fortunate to work every day with 8 talented, good-humored, committed colleagues who perform the miracles that produce the far-reaching programs, partnerships, and resources that make it all possible. I'd like the staff of the Humanities Council to please rise right now to be recognized. Of course, we would not be here without your support of the annual dinner and of our work throughout the year. Again this year, or tonight, we are honored to have the largest number of annual dinner sponsors ever. And I want to thank some of them. We left space in the program tonight for you to take notes, so you don't have to write Colin McCann's luminous insights on your cocktail napkin. I want to thank Dartmouth College for supporting our focus on the transmission of knowledge by serving as our humanities sponsor. We also thank our program sponsor, TD Bank, who has made sure you have a pen with which to take those notes. I thank our keynote sponsor, Events United, for helping us to bring Colin McCann's inspiring ideas here tonight. Reception sponsor TransCanada has once again brought us all together for the conversations that are part of what makes this event so enjoyable. And I'm grateful to the University of New Hampshire, who has supported the education of our guests by serving as our book sponsor for many years. Bank of America has sponsored the technology being used here tonight. And I'm grateful to Lincoln Financial Group, our wine sponsor, Divine Millimet, our book signing sponsor, Dartmouth Hitchcock, our salad sponsor, Comcast, Centerpiece sponsor, People's United Bank, our dessert sponsor, Keene State College, our coffee sponsor, Granite Investment Advisors, our Encore sponsor, New England College, our Community Connection sponsor, and AT&T, our hospitality sponsor. Last, but definitely not least, I would like to recognize our lead sponsor for the 23rd straight year, Public Service of New Hampshire. I noticed recently on their, what? I noticed recently on their website they were using the phrase, "We're all connected," which certainly connects to our mission. And I'm grateful for the generous support they've given us over the years that has enabled us to make connections that link the people of New Hampshire to the ideas that animate human society and link us to one another. At this time, I'd like to welcome Bill Quinlan, who is the new COO of PS&H, to his first Humanities Council annual dinner and to the stage. I hope it will be the first of many such appearances. Bill?
Thank you. So as Debbie was indicating, I'm Bill Quinlan. I'm the new President and Chief Operating Officer of Public Service in New Hampshire. I'm truly happy and honored to be here this evening. For those of you I haven't met, and that's probably most of you, my prior role was in Connecticut. So I'm only been involved in New Hampshire matters for 2 or 3 weeks at this point. And one thing I've been getting consistently, and probably the single most frequent question I get, is something that you all can, I think, understand. So anyone here from Connecticut at this? Anyone have a perspective on Connecticut? Yeah, Connecticut. Okay, so you might understand this. So the single most frequent question I've been getting since I've been here is he a Yankee fan or is he a Red Sox fan? For those of you who understand Connecticut, it's ground zero for that rivalry, right? The eastern part of the state, diehard Red Sox fans. Western part of the state down to New York is diehard Yankee fans. So that's the question I've been getting most frequently. And then on my way here today, I got a call from my office saying, "Bill, you know, tonight the Red Sox are playing. Would you mind shortening your remarks? Would you mind shortening them from 5 minutes to maybe 2 or 3 minutes in deference to the Red Sox?" So to show my allegiance to the Red Sox, and I am on the eastern part of the state, this is going to be very brief remarks, but that's the answer to the critical question. Now, so hopefully we could all get to the game and enjoy it tonight. You know, from Public Service of New Hampshire perspective, we are truly honored to be supporting this great event. You know, this is our 23rd consecutive year as the lead sponsor. And beyond that, PS&H's leadership, whether it's Gary Long, who's been a longtime supporter of the Humanities Council, or Mary Jo Bouvier, who's a current board member, we've really been involved and connected to the council for many years. And you might ask yourself, why is that? Why would a business like PS&H be so interested and supportive of the Humanities Council? And to me, it's pretty simple, and I think this is the reason behind Gary and Mary Jo's support over the years. We can truly relate to the mission of the council, you know, connecting people with ideas. You know, in our business, sometimes you get very focused on technology or earnings or the latest issues that we're dealing with. and you lose sight of the humanistic side of things. And what we find is that through involvement with entities like the council, you're able to connect and to get diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, and to actually have real dialogue around issues. And we're a public service of New Hampshire, so fundamentally we're a public service company. So having that dialogue, being open to new ideas and truly listening is at the heart of our business. And that's among the principal reasons why we support the Humanities Council. We look forward to next year's event and being the lead sponsor again. We obviously look forward to hearing from tonight's guest speaker. So with that, I'm at the 2-minute mark, so enjoy your dinner and go Red Sox. Yeah.
All right, I have the fun stuff to do right now. I have 2 items to give away at each table. One lucky person will take home an autographed copy of Let the Great World Spin, Colin McCann's National Book Award-winning novel, and another will take home the centerpiece, which we hope will prompt some conversation at your table. You'll find the container for the centerpiece, which has some more pieces in it, under the book stand. Remember, if you don't win the book or the centerpiece, they are both for sale out in the lobby. Gibson's Bookstore is here, and they donate a portion of their proceeds to the Humanities Council. They also have other copies of McCann's books here, and are selling our tote bags and our bilingual folktale book. Colin McCann has graciously agreed to autograph books after dinner in the room immediately behind this one. Here's how the winners will be decided. Place your business card in the basket on your table or fill out the slip of paper you find there and put it in. Choose one person at your table to draw 2 names. Those are the winners. If you don't know everyone at your table, this will be an opportunity to meet each other. Enjoy your dinner and conversation. We'll resume our program in about a half an hour.